not a presidential, they call it.
This is midterm. Next year is non-election. That's
School, city school.
City school.
City elections are same time.
Yes.
Please enter your participant or moderator code followed by the pound key.
Has there been a lot of early voting?
I've talked to quite a few. Have.
Please say your name followed by the pound key. You are the first participant in the conference. Julie has joined.
Successful. In Des Moines will be for 5 days or whatever. I'm not really sure what they were all fixing.
He was telling me what it was all gonna be here a few months ago. Back in July or something, I was talking to him. I can't remember.
Well, actually, I can't either. I don't know what all they were gonna do. But he said like a 3 to 7 day recovery, so it's pretty extensive, you know. And in Des Moines. So he was gonna go to Mercy, but then the doctor there quit.
Oh, really?
One that he'd been actually working with.
For a while. Huh.
All right, well,
Yeah, basically.
9 o'clock. Say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consider for approval minutes and agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Derby, seconded by Jensel to approve the minutes and agenda. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed. Scott will discuss secondary road matters. Hey Scott, ready for you? Okay. Gosh, it's really been interesting to watch that big bridge replacement over there. You know, it almost seems like overkill when you look at it because it's just so huge. But I mean, it's a big, deep ditch.
Yeah.
But right now it doesn't look like anything because there's no water in it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there isn't hardly any water in any of them.
Mm-hmm. He did say though that one will be finished up probably by the end of this week. I asked how many loads of gravel or whatever that
Fill or whatever.
still is. 80. It looked like a lot.
Because of the depth, the lake had to be longer so it could slope.
I suppose, and it really changes the topography. I mean, it really looks different too.
Yeah, I was intended to get over and looking at it, but I never have.
I was concerned about the field driveways that were both there. You know, there's field driveways on both sides of it. Just wanted to make sure you'd be able to get
There's always been that pole on the southwest part of it. It's always made the driveway really narrow.
tiny, yeah. So he said it would be greatly improved, so that'll be good too.
We may have to bring the snowmobile trail back there. It was so tough to make that turn crossing the bridge.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. It looks really different.
Which road was that on again?
106th 160th,
160th.
north of 9,
Yeah.
just north of
By
our
the
Yeah.
side, the old,
You
yeah.
should just, yeah, when you're headed back to
Every time I go by,
Buffalo,
every time I go by there, I don't think of it.
think of turn it down.
I think of it afterwards. Sometimes I even think of it before, but I can never think of it when.
And then,
Today I got
go a different direction.
mental health, Emmitsburg's.
Oh, happy birthday.
Another. Went to Wisconsin for my birthday.
Oh.
Sure.
Bought some equipment,
Got to spend some money, you know.
not my money.
Oh,
All that snowmobile stuff.
Yeah.
I happened to stop in Sally's and she said that you were been buying rolls for everybody. I said, well, good, then I'll have I'll have one. But I paid for it.
Morning.
Morning.
Gentlemen.
I'll give you project updates first. We have almost everything done for the year, like big project wise. The guys are working on finishing up out at G14W1 there. That pipe's in the ground, backfilled all the way to the surface. They're kind of shaping up the road bed and putting in driveways today. Riprap and shaping up the end of the pipe, and that project should be in pretty good shape by the end of the week. So kind of just in time for things to start freezing overnight and causing problems. They got the R74 and A16 new paving striped last week. Or was it? Yep, last Friday. So that project is 100% complete. And working on final paperwork and payments and stuff, so I think they have signs to pick up yet. There's the only thing. Otherwise, that's done too.
No surprises.
Not really, no.
I'm trying to remember back, at some point during the construction season, we couldn't get one of the pipes or something, and then we ended up switching. Is that one put off till next year then?
Right, yeah, so the one on R50, that,
By Ron Penning's there.
yeah, so we ordered a concrete box and realized the electric company wouldn't de-energize the line, so we switched it to a coated metal pipe and had trouble getting that. It's now able to be delivered, but it's kind of middle of harvest and the weather's really not cooperating anymore. It's getting cold, so we thought we just as well wait till spring. So that's one I think we'll try to tackle in May or something like that. Gets to be too tough to get asphalt lined up to get it patched back in, I think. We don't really want to, I don't know, risk it not having a patch for the winter either. So, yeah, that one will wait till spring. That's all I got on projects. I was also gonna go over an email I sent to you about our bridge status. We were, I think, kind of both encouraged by what our bridge inventory is looking like now after last couple of years. We've done 8, 9 bridges replaced with culverts. So that brings our bridge inventory in the entire county down to 51. I know the guys here before me had talked about when it was over 200. So slowly they have replaced bridges with culverts all over the county, and kind of, you know, culverts have a lot less maintenance. They have less inspection requirements. They just have potential to last longer, especially concrete culverts. So we really gotten in good shape. You know, replaced something like 50 during the wind farm development years in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, kind of through there. And we got fuel tax increase around 2015, I think, and so we've been able to do another 3 or 4 a year over the last 7, 8 years, and really made good progress. Of those 51, 18 are poor still, 16 fair, and 17 good. Most of those good ones are concrete slab bridges, kind of more modern bridges that have been built kind of since the 80s, late 80s and into the 90s, concrete slab bridges. The poor bridges are mostly all timber bridges still. We have 16 timber bridges that are still out there, and those would most likely need to be replaced in the next 15 to 20 years, maybe sooner. 9 of those are posted with weight limits, and usually once they get posted, they decline pretty quickly.
So if you do 3 a year, you could have them done in 5 years, 6 years or something.
Yeah, we could. If we maintain the pace of bridge replacement that we have been, we could get them all. But we are, I think, needing to reprioritize our funds as we see our pavements deteriorate and also our shop situations needing some help. So I think over the next 5 years, our bridge replacements will take a backseat to pavement maintenance and facility updates. That's kind of to be discussed more in detail as we go through the budgeting and programming. But that's where I see the needs more. Each time we get a bridge inspection, we'll reevaluate. This year we had only 2 postings get updated, and those were both in the schedule for this year. So, that's good news. The one that we're working on now and the one by Lawrence Stoughton that we did this spring. So, that's good news. Some years we have 10 or 12 bridges, the postings change, and then you really have to juggle projects. So overall, I think dramatic improvement. However, for having 51 bridges, having 18 in poor condition is still not ideal. I wanted to share those numbers with you because I'm sure you haven't seen a report like that recently. I haven't put that together lately.
Yeah, that's interesting.
How many current bridges did you say were still are posted?
We have a total of 15 posted.
Okay, the 4 bridges are all posted there.
Yeah, a little bit nuanced because we have 3 railroad flat car bridges that have postings on them, and those are good bridges. They just changed the load requirements after they were designed and built, so they don't meet some of the really heavy requirements. So really 12 bridges are posted that are the highest priority.
The rail car ones are still good for 80,000, just not the big loads.
Right.
Well,
And they-
or 2 80,000s on it at the same time, or?
Yeah, I think they're posted 1 lane too. So I wouldn't expect those postings to change at all over the next 25 years, 50 years, I don't know. But the other ones are most likely declining every time we get a new inspection. So something to fuel our discussion for budget and program for projects coming up. And then wanted to give you an update too on our Four City Shop project down here. We got Atura Architecture hired to be the architect on the project. We interviewed a couple companies and we just felt more comfortable with them. They've designed a bunch of public buildings. They have all kinds of shops in their sort of inventory of projects they've done. They did the courthouse addition. So I think they're a good company, and this project shouldn't be terribly complicated, pretty straightforward. We had HRS surveying from, I have a Clear Lake office, had them do the boundary survey and topo work, and that's complete, and they have that information to the architect. So, and then they also did a walkthrough last week, and we talked about scope of work and things like that, and hoping to have preliminary drawings, I mean something real basic, in the next few weeks. Budget is still really a moving target, I'd say. Kind of depends on who we talk to and just how complicated this project might get. We're looking at 600 to 800,000 for the project complete, I'd say. We are moving forward with it at this point like we might bid it in the spring for this following summer's construction. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but they were recommending that just as we watch prices inflate all the time, and lately it's pretty dramatic, so the sooner we bid it, the lower the price. We have funds in the secondary road fund to build the project at this point with the surplus we've had over the last couple of years. So we are able to budget for it in the upcoming fiscal year and pay for it out of secondary road funds. As you know, I've also requested the remaining ARPA funds for this project, and that would really help with the budget as well. But that's where we're at. We're moving forward with it full steam ahead.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot done. If you've gotten all the surveys and.
We had that lined up ahead of time, so it's all coming together nicely here.
So is that out of Clear Lake?
They have a Clear Lake office. That currently their office, the guy running the office left and went to a different company, so they still have the office there, but they're really out of, let's say, Waterloo or New Hampton. But guys we worked with before on projects, they do a lot of traveling.
Okay. Any questions for Scott today or Ethan? I saw Scott. What is that machine you were running, Scott?
Well, I got
It had just a really weird box on it, though. What is that front thing? That's just a regular excavator?
well. I spent couple hours in both the excavator and the skid loader and the dozer and the sheep's foot roller as well, I guess. Happened to have a little bit of time, and that job has just got a lot of moving pieces on it. So you got to build up both sides of the culvert, and so there's got to be an excavator on both sides, and the skid loader's running back and forth, and the roller and the plate packer, and both dozers on both sides. It just kind of takes a lot of body, so I kind of took the chance to make a mess out there. Hopefully with a little bit of help.
How'd it go?
I didn't have a hard hat or a fluorescent jacket, so I stayed far away when I heard Scott was in that excavator.
Yeah, I didn't wreck anything, and
You were really up on top of quite a mountain.
yeah, that job's got a lot of dirt to move.
Yeah. Didn't you say, I was telling these guys that there was 80 loads of gravel?
Yeah.
That just seems like a lot of loads of gravel.
Yeah, it does until you compare it with what we normally haul for dirt. Like we had, like what did we haul that Doden Bridge for dirt?
200 loads of dirt.
Wow.
You know, and you got these bridges that are 70 foot long, and the channels, you know, looks the same as it does through the fields there, and then we got to fill it in around a little pipe. It just takes a lot of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's typical for us to haul quite a few loads of dirt, and in this case, it had to be gravel, so we won't have to end up hauling any dirt in. So, you know, the fuel's kind of a wash. We did have to pay for the gravel, whereas normally don't pay much for dirt. But
It's
we-
different. around
Exciting to kind of put all the numbers together and kind of see where this one landed in comparison with concrete box. It was a lot more labor, for sure, more material.
We were out checking crops there earlier this year and ran the drone through and under the bridge. It was fun to look at it underneath there.
Yeah, that was a big bridge.
Mm-hmm.
What was the advantage or the reason that you went with this type of structure instead of the concrete?
Yeah, cost is really all.
It costs a lot less upfront.
Yeah, the concrete option here would have been 2 boxes. I think what we would end up using is twin 10 by 12s.
And that's what's downstream. Couple of crossings.
Let's see. So this one,
Yeah, on 400, well, straight off Highway 9, there's that double box.
It's that arch.
oh, the arch, right? Yeah, the conspan arch we put in. It's like 33 by 11 or something. Just
Is that a single
east
or a
off the
double?
junction, single, but it's big.
Flat, you know?
I was thinking it was a double box.
Yeah, that was an expensive project here in whatever it was, 2016, whatever it was. I mean, the biggest precast structure in the entire county is down there. Upstream of it is, the double 10 by 10 by Randstad's there, and then upstream Coon Grove one is 12 by 16. Gets smaller and smaller from there, but yeah, so I think we might have saved, 70 to 100,000 if this structure lasts as long and is otherwise the same as concrete. Some of that's kind of yet to be seen. Aluminum should last basically forever. So should concrete, but we don't have a lot of examples of the aluminum structures to be able to weigh it against.
Aluminum does corrode though.
Well, it kind of like oxidizes and creates
Yeah.
almost like a protective coating. We do have a couple of aluminum structures from 1999, and there isn't any appreciable corrosion problems. So I think that'd be enough time
If
to.
it's covered and
Covered.
sealed, will last longer than the parts that are exposed, maybe.
Doesn't seem to make a difference, like in the ones that we have, they look the same as when they're put in for that.
It's not like it's gonna get this, what's it, calcium chloride or whatever they spray on the roads. See, I just think of the aluminum on my truck. I mean, that over time, that is degraded.
Hmm.
I've had to replace pieces. But then, the aluminum tanks and stuff, they're in good shape yet, so it's,
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't have any corrosive environment on this project either, without any pavement for treating with salt, sand.
For the most part, they look like they do when they get put in. That one on 74 looks, there's no sign of corrosion or oxidization. So.
it's a lot lighter.
Yeah, so like I said, when we get numbers all put together, when we get the report back from the guys and all their labor and materials and everything, then probably share that with you and kind of show how that compares with some of our box culvert projects.
All right. Anything else? Good. Thank you. Good day.
Take care.
Hey, Chris, we're ready for you. It's fun to hear those numbers, that there's 51 bridges in the county. You know, it's not something you ever really know.
There used to be 200.
I know, isn't it something?
Hi.
Hi, Chris.
I don't have anything today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you guys have anything for me?
I'm connecting sorries with the landowner.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, Todd actually owned the nose collapse, so that
Yeah, yep. Perfect. And LaHarve was gonna go out to the one. Was there another one?
about
Ethan Shutter had gotten a hold of me on that one. No, that was last week, I don't remember. Anyway,
Is LaHarp going to that one out here, the edge of town? South of Highway 9.
I don't remember what it was.
Well,
No.
I know I had talked to Ethan about possibly, the property owner had said something about in the road ditch, there might have been a hole, but he looked that one up and said, no.
Okay, and this one was impeding the water, I mean, the water was over the banks, so we need to get that taken care of.
Well, this is a tile hole in the
Oh,
backyard.
no, this was in a ditch,
Beavers.
beaver dam.
Well, I'm talking about that tile hole in, I'm trying to remember the name, the backyard out east of town here. It's been there all year.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard anything about that one. Out by the bowling alley, south of the bowling alley. Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about that one. Mhm.
I'm just wondering if we need to get somebody else in to do that, or if it's actually gonna get done. It's
I
another
can
project
check on
been
it,
put on back burner, basically.
maybe. But no one's calling to tell me that they need work either. So I'm assuming they're all busy doing something.
Sure.
Do we typically get calls?
Sometimes.
For work?
Wonder if we have anything going. If they're maybe in between projects themselves.
Is Chad still doing repairs?
I'm not sure. I have gotten almost a hold of everyone that we didn't have insurance for and updated insurance, and they're getting those to me.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. Hopefully I'll have all those before I need to give the information to the. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's only gonna benefit them.
Oh, definitely.
That's good.
Yep.
It's funny that they need to be reminded, but.
Every year. Yep. Or I just let it go.
All right, well, there's nothing else. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Open forum. Oh, these were left here, I suppose, because of that recycling issue we're talking about or something.
I think you stopped by. Called me about the message, we didn't get the message.
It's an interesting name on that one.
Yeah, it is.
I just figured we'd tie those two together.
I guess the only other thing was this, you guys got copies of this letter that was sent out, so if we can put on the agenda for November 7th, that would give 14 days from when it was
Delivered.
delivered. Is that all right? Okay. That's what we'll do. Anything else for open forum?
Nothing other than giving the letter that says I owe an explanation.
Oh, would you like to
And
address?
if people think that there's no election fraud, maybe they should go to the Four City Theater tonight and watch 2,000 Mules. They make up their own minds. 7 o'clock tonight.
All right. Well, I'm hoping I'll be picking corn, but I'll wait till it comes on Netflix.
Well, it's already out. You can search it and find it.
Oh, you can?
You can watch it.
All right, so there's nothing else for open forum. It is 9:30.
I still don't believe that there was any election fraud in Winnebago County or the state of Iowa.
Probably not. In order for there to be election fraud, and I said that day out there, or there would be election fraud in Winnebago, or in Iowa, the Secretary of State has to be in on it, and so are the auditors, or at least some of them. And I don't believe that's the case.
All right. Note taken. 9:30 a.m. Public hearing for Winnebago County floodplain ordinance, first reading of ordinance number 44.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
A motion to open the public hearing by Derby, seconded by Jensvold. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Public hearing is open.
Was there any comments submitted prior to?
None? Okay.
You could ask online.
Yeah. Is there anyone online that has any observations or comments?
On the Winnebago County floodplain ordinance.
First,
You kind of open that.
ordinance number 44.
You gotta specify.
That's true.
There's all kinds of opinions out there.
That's true. All right, hearing none.
So I suppose you need to read it.
First reading,
Do you have to read the whole thing?
Just that first
just this
page.
part, Robin. First reading and action on ordinance number 44, whereas Winnebago County Board of Supervisors proposed the adoption and enactment of ordinance number 44 on the 25th day of October 2022, which action is recorded in the minutes of the Board of Supervisors. Upon motion made by and seconded by, a vote was held to suspend the requirement for 3 successive readings and votes, which motion passed by a vote of majority of the Board of Supervisors as follows. Do we know who made those motions?
No, we haven't done that yet.
Okay, so that's still what's happening, okay. Those voting for suspension of the requirement is Derby, Smith, and Jensvold. Those voting against suspension of the requirement, none. Now, therefore, the following was read and voted upon by the Board of Supervisors, and it passed by a vote of a majority of the Board of Supervisors. And it is now therefore enacted on ordained. So that is the actual ordinance number 44.
So I'll make a motion, or I can't do that.
So I wonder if you should If there's a summary of the actual ordinance 44,
There's
there's
a
a,
summary page.
Management back.
I don't know that there was much changes in how it affects people other than the floodplain changed slightly in a couple of parcels. But as far as functionally, I think the rules remain.
They just added a couple of
Acres here,
acres here, didn't they? Which were,
southwest of Lee.
yeah, I was gonna say they were over by, Lee, if I remember right.
maybe even just this.
I can remember reading an ordinance a while back. It was something that we changed, but it wasn't near that long, so we just read the whole thing.
Well, yeah, this one,
This is
it's a
very,
zoning thing and
very long.
it's been in place. It's just kind of replacing another one.
It just talks about the
I wouldn't want to read that.
the definitions
If
of
it
the,
affected my project, I would want to read it.
Yeah, it seems like it's really just more like definitions and explanation, but is this non-conforming uses, section 10? Is that something that has changed?
I think we need Matt to tell us what has changed.
In the ordinance,
Yeah,
I think there was only just a couple of parcels over
Well,
in Leland that were added.
That was the area, but I think that has to be changes in the areas have to be part of the ordinance, I think. I don't know that he changed anything in the ordinance otherwise.
okay.
I don't know. We haven't had any communication on it.
No?
Well, maybe we could ask him.
I mean, it's like.
Hi, could you tell us what changed with this floodplain ordinance?
Yes. The one that I emailed to him has highlighted, language that changed. Let's give you just a second here. All the changes came from the representative at FEMA. Let's see here.
Can you find the highlighted?
Nope.
Parts?
Was it just, was it in definitions or was it in the maps?
Terry's wondering if it was in definitions or was it in the maps?
It was, not in the definitions, it was, throughout the document. I thought I emailed it to those guys with the highlighted areas.
Well, that was way back. We saw those, but
Okay, so I mean, I can go
none of
over
the
and look at it real
definitions
quick if you
changed.
want.
We're just going with the geographic area change, right?
I don't think it's not geographic either, right?
No. Basically what it is, it's kind of some definitions within, some wording changes. For instance, under under the definitions, they updated the existing factory-built home park or subdivision factory-built home park or subdivision parcel of contiguous parcels of land divided into 2 or more factory-built home lots for sale. Basically, that's the mobile home park. They're changing definitions. It's just what they recommended and what they're telling us we have to do to have this ordinance, to be able to have this apply for, our flood info. So, Section 3, land in which ordinance apply, they've updated some wording in that to overlay the districts, as established in Section 5. Zoning maps updated based on the new date in December. The floodplain permit development, it just talks about if they're in a floodplain, they've got to have a permit issued by me and reviewed by DNR. They wanted to see some location dimensions of all structures and additions. They updated the vertical datum to 1988. They did add one in Section 4. For the construction use to be provided in the application plans, if it's going to be occupied or not, and any kind of flood proofing, and it's got to be registered with the state of Iowa.
Matt, is most of this all to do with what's restricting things in the floodplain?
Yeah, I wouldn't say restricting. I think it just this is information that's basically passed down from FEMA that we have to have updated it within our ordinance to make this work. So
Does it affect anything outside of what's designated floodplain?
No. Well, the only thing is they've updated some of those maps that we have,
Right.
Based on the new study. I think that affects, I think if I remember right, the Leland area. I had sent this information to Scott too. He had asked for it. I haven't gotten any comments back if there's any issues there, but
Well, we've gotten the maps, we just didn't get any of the documents of changes.
yeah, so basically what I did is I sent our current ordinance over to the flood administrator, Adrian Ricehill at the Iowa DNR. She had mentioned that things were moving forward with the floodplain ordinance and things needed to be taken care of before December 15th. She asked for the current ordinance to kind of redline it and go through what they need to have on there updated for their requirements. So I guess long story short, I'm not going to argue with the state and FEMA on their wording. And the new maps, are provided by them as well. It's kind of just a direction for us and for me. If somebody gets a building permit, I can look at those maps. If they're within a floodplain, they've got to adhere to this ordinance. It's basically what it is. And this is laid out by the state of Iowa with, to me. So if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, did we get all of our questions answered?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, see ya.
make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Motion by Derby and seconded by Jensvold to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Consider, the approval waiving second and third readings of ordinance number 44.
Means I'm not the chairman. Oh, all right, I'll make a motion.
Oh, you will be soon.
Well, but yeah, you'd have to read it again if we made you read
Oh,
it.
for heaven's sakes, okay.
I'll make a motion to waive the second, third readings of ordinance number 44.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Jensvold and seconded by Derby to waive the second and third reading of ordinance number 44. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Consider passing ordinance number 44.
I'll make a motion to approve passing ordinance number 44 on floodplain ordinance.
I'll second it.
A motion by Jensvold, Derby and seconded by Jensvold to pass ordinance number 44. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed. So, is that about?
There's also a place to sign at the end.
And then do we need a roll call though on that? No. Okay. Okay. Number 8, discussion regarding counties that receive payments in lieu of taxes for federal lands, LATCF funds available for the counties.
The one thing I've gathered, talking to other people, is that only 49 out of the 99 counties in Iowa were eligible for this money. Most of them qualified for the minimum of $50,000 per year. You look at Minnesota, they've got a lot more federal lands up there, so there were some that got in the millions. You get out in Utah, and that's a lot of public lands. So, in looking at this, if you wanted to use it for an infrastructure project, then you have to go by the Build America, Buy America Act. That's going to be complicated. You don't really want to put it towards any kind of infrastructure projects, whether it be a building or bridges or equipment. That just doesn't work. Believe me, I've done it for years, and it's a challenge. So I guess the one thing I'm looking at, we've talked in the past about putting money towards housing incentives. I don't know, there's two $50,000 amounts. I don't know if you want to focus the first one that would be almost immediately available once we pass this to apply for it. And then the second one would be available after the first of the year, the way it sounded. So we'd have almost 100, probably the 100,000 available after the first of the year. One thing I looked at is if we took the first 50,000 and dedicated it towards the rural area, the unincorporated areas, and maybe open up the second 50,000 for incorporated areas too. It could be for anybody, in the county.
Mhm.
But the one thing I'd like to make sure is that it's not utilized in a blighted district, TIF district, because we'll get no benefit out of it.
Mhm.
So if they're gonna do a project using these monies, it should not go to anything in one of those blighted districts.
So what are the stipulations in how you can use this money?
Well,
Or is it
examples of eligible use include economic development, affordable housing, transportation and infrastructure, and emergency services. County, there's Treasury LATCF guidance that you can print out of. I printed that one. Here it is. So it's pretty flexible. It's just like the ARPA funds, you know. You can't use it for lobbying. So,
So is there any reason to consider this for emergency and EMS?
how would we use it?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it
At
out
this
there.
point, we don't know how the vote's gonna go, so
What's the timeline on this?
We can use it, we can hold it for 5 years before we use it.
Really? But we have to state a use for it?
we also have to get in the system
Yes.
right away.
Yeah.
There's a deadline for that, so.
We have to apply on the portal before January 31st, 2023.
The downside to it would be what?
Just the paperwork probably,
Yeah.
huh? The work that the
More work
auditors.
for me.
Yeah.
I do not.
I suppose for us, it's gonna be, everybody wants a piece of the pie, and we'll be getting the feedback.
Mhm.
And it's, how much a year?
50,000 a year,
50,000
2
a year.
years.
But some places get more, but,
Right, but the minimum was 50,000 if you have federal line.
well, that was a minimum.
But then, you know, there's some criteria in there. You know, Arizona has, what, 8 counties? So, yeah, they got a lot of federal lands down here, but they also are limited, there's a maximum per person, there's all kinds of criteria there, so it's not like they get all of them.
Well, it's for use. I mean, like the federal lands don't like to pay drainage.
Right?
Can we use it to pay the drainage? That they should have put, you know?
Do we have any current? I guess the big thing there was tracking it. Now, if you set it aside for that, you have to account for it,
Is there enough,
paperwork, and I don't know how complicated that would be.
is there enough federal land involved drainage that would cover the 50,000 a year?
The one would be over by Rice Lake. Trying to think where the other ones are, where the other federal lands are. Is that it?
No, there's quite a few.
Anything fish and
There's
wildlife?
one, in the one north of Thompson, isn't that a federal thing?
There's some of it's by
By where,
Wood Duck too, there's some federal.
I feel like
it's
almost-
federal, it's up by,
I feel like there's a lot of districts who have fish and wildlife in them.
I know that piece right east of our home place is federal as well. Yeah, how do we find that out?
Well, I'm just gonna search fish and wildlife.
Yeah, go on Macon and.
How it's listed, it's not coming up. Oh, here it is, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10.
Iowa Department of Natural Resources. some reason I was thinking revenues, so. Just we have a flap book, in the back of it there, with list of all.
How did this come about even?
It was part of the last bill that provided the ARPA funds and stuff. It was all
Oh, it
part.
was part of that?
So everywhere that it's yellow on the screen
Yeah.
It's federal.
is the US Fish and Wildlife.
So what bill you were proposing?
Well, they never paid for their share of drainage. And if that money can be applied to, so the rest of the drainage district doesn't have to cover the federal land expense part of it.
How would you do that?
I'm not sure.
So is it gonna be fair if one project uses it and another one already could have used it and already paid?
Yeah.
And
Can you
Well,
retro
no,
it?
you
Can
can't,
you
yeah.
retro it somehow?
You can't
My
really,
guess is you're not gonna make it retroactive. You can't do that.
I mean, you can't really develop a trust fund for it or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
kinda like our county home fund.
If money's gotta be spent,
Yeah.
it may not get spent, but some of it possibly can be used for that from time to time. When it arises, say their share of it's $20,000, and that year we'll take 20,000 out of that 50,000 and apply it to that federal land drainage.
Good thought.
Should we get Chris in here to ask her how that would work?
I'm sure it's complicated.
It's not that bad because really what she does right now is just takes those drainage parcels and makes them zero and then
Charges it out to everybody else.
charges it out to everybody else.
Mhm.
But how would the federal funds work into that? I mean, how do we
You would just,
store that money?
So if we had a,
well, you wouldn't store it in a sense, because we'd have to spend it as we went, I assume, the 50,000 every year, but if you've got some in that account, from that 50,000 left that year, and a federal parcel is involved in a drainage, then we could use some of that money for that, to pay their share of the drainage.
yeah, if we just had a fund for this $100,000, as these projects come up with these parcels in it, we would just
I think that's a perfect place to use it.
transfer that money from this fund to those parcels.
Because then, around the barn, the federal is paying for the drainage. We've got to go a long way around it.
It's just if we can, well, we would name it as that fund,
Mhm.
and then do we have to, does it have to be used like within 5 years, like you said, or what's, I mean,
Well,
Or-
and as we go, we would be spending it on
Just
other
spending
things
it.
too,
and if it was
but each year, a new 50,000 is coming in.
only for 2 years.
It's only 2 years.
Yeah, it's just 2 years.
No, but still, it's not a bad place to use it, but like Terry says, it's not really necessarily fair to the different drainage
I should
districts.
have read it better for some reason. I thought it was gonna go on for a while.
If there was no timing limit on it, that would be,
It would be a good spot for it.
I guess it'd be nice to know in the last 5 years, how much was made up for 5
We could
years.
have Chris work that up for us for next week, and we could put it back on the agenda and talk about it.
Mhm.
I think that would be helpful. Because this is kind of eye-opening just to see how many are in the county.
well, and what I can do is,
All public park properties. There's a lot of county properties out there. There's state,
that makes it hard to see,
county.
but that puts it in the drainage districts that it's in.
Yeah. Well, the one is right across from, right monies to town,
Mhm.
and,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much of those in the past, what dollar
DD5's had a
amounts.
lot of bills. DD3, DD, at 25. DD2, DD118, DD57.
it's 25 at a private one. Seems like it is.
I think so.
Where's that at?
25 down here, oh, down there. 'Cause I remember that one being one of those that we,
It's a trustee district.
yeah, might get approved something. Found out it wasn't.
Do we want Chris back in here, or is this something we wanna talk about more at length when we have more information?
Yeah, 25 is a private district, 15, 12, 10.
I don't think it hurts to
There's
ask
a
the
private
question.
district up at Rake, is that 64? 102 there. Can't remember.
So I suppose if Chris would write get a report on monies that had to be accounted for in the last 5 years in those districts affected by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, that'd give us an idea of what that would do.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give her a call, Susan?
Sure. Hey, Chris, we have a couple questions. Could you come back over? Thanks. More than a couple questions.
Maybe it's just one big question.
Yes,
don't know.
there we go. So Chris, we've been talking about counties that receive payments in lieu of taxes for federal lands, the LATCF funds that are available.
Okay.
And so the yellow up there is federal, the little yellows were federal, so we're kind of talking about best places to use those monies, which the total is like $100,000.
Okay.
So Bill had the thought that we could pay for some of the drainage that they never pay for. And just wondering how we would do that. And
My question was, can you come up with a report for the last 5 years? How much we had to account for in those districts, or any of the districts that U.S. Fish and Wildlife did not pay?
I can tell you which ones were billed, but it was dispersed among the other landowners.
Right, but I want to know, what did U.S. Fish and Wildlife
not pay, yeah.
And then if we applied it to that, can you give it back to these guys in the decimal?
That would be a horrible way to figure it out.
I'm just saying
That
an
would just
estimate
take-
of
I
what
don't even know.
possibly in the next 5 years could be, just an estimate. Is it a drop in the bucket versus the 100,000?
That's what
or
I'm
is it-
wondering too, is it gonna make, we're trying to figure out what to use these funds for, cause we can use them for multiple things, and, you know, the thought process is, you know, maybe,
Has to be spent in 5 years.
Yeah, I would need to know the districts that they're in.
So it'd be 25,
just, you can go back to that one that only has the yellow, oh no,
118 to,
Because it looks like 108, that might
We
not
did a lot of
even
work
be in a
in two.
district.
no, we did a lot of work too.
5.
Yeah, I I just wouldn't, yeah, I'll just get a list of the parcels and
Mhm.
figure out where they're at.
So for like next week, it would be interesting for us to know what kind of dollars they didn't pay. But you're also saying that it would really be,
I don't know how you would
maths
figure out
to-
how to reimburse anybody.
Okay,
Well, I think what you could do is use these dollars and just put them into that fund, so that the next time that there's a bill, those dollars are already sitting there and those landowners wouldn't have to pay
Mhm.
that much money.
Yep.
you like that
Yep.
idea? I
Yep,
like that
That's
idea.
a great idea.
But what happens if it's just one lateral project? Is that fair to the rest of the district?
It would go in the
Well,
main fund.
lateral,
The main fund?
It would
yeah,
go in
lateral
their
is
main
paid
district.
out of different funds.
And if it's not a huge number, can we take this 50,000 plus another 50 and just have it in a fund for any upcoming projects? So does it say in the paperwork about how long we can hold on to the funds?
Well, when I listened to the video, it said at least 5 years. But I can ask some questions and see if we can do longer than that, but
Especially if we designated it.
Is it, yeah, I was just gonna say, is it considered spent if we put it in a fund for this?
I can ask the question.
Yeah.
Because in theory, we've allocated it to be spent.
Yes.
Unless they need to know where you exactly spent it at, and if you haven't, then.
And I guess the other question.
Saying it's going to be spent for this and then it was spent on this is two different things, I guess.
I don't know if repairs like this are going to be restricted because of the Build America, Buy America.
But I think this is the reason why we're getting this money in the first place, is because of the fact that they don't pay their drainage bills.
That's what I think
That's
too.
why they're giving us this money in the first place, so.
So the counties and the states that receive great big numbers of what they don't have drainage.
See, in the past, there was always the pilot program where they actually, in those big states like Utah and Arizona, they were getting payment in lieu of tax. It's a replacement tax, kind of a backfill. But it was always up for renewal every bill,
Interesting.
But I don't think we ever qualified for any of that, did we?
Not that I remember.
Well, maybe for
Well,
next
and
week.
maybe we did get a tiny little amount a while back, but I think Julie put it into the townships, not into the drainage.
I feel like she did some drainage at one time when there was a bill for a year, that she got money, and so we collected it, but I.
Well, maybe for next week, if we could get just some of those numbers, and Carly, you could ask those questions about, if we allocate it, if that's good enough.
Okay.
Then we
The thing that will be hard though is I've given them a 0 for their assessment. So I don't know what they would have been billed for. Because I would have to change everybody else's assessment
Yeah,
to have them. But I can tell you the districts and how much was billed,
Isn't there a way to put it
per
back?
square,
but then it would change everybody's. I would have to change everybody's back. Because I had to raise theirs to take out US Fish. Nope. I lessened their original assessment by that US Fish and Wildlife total.
Yeah.
Yep, I did.
so you will
So
be able-
if their assessment was the original assessment was $10,000 for that district. I took off the US Fish and Wildlife 200, so the original assessment is now $9,800. And it's based on that instead of the 10.
Yep, so all you have to do is put back in there.
Put it back in.
Yep.
I don't know what the landowners were like 5-6 years ago, but I can go by current and what was built in the last 5 years for that district. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great. Okay.
Yep.
I think that'll give us a way better idea of how far this might go or not go, or if it's gonna be helpful, or.
And the hard part is, if there was a big, say, you know, we cleaned out 2, when's the next time that's gonna be? Not for a while. So you could have money sitting in a fund for a very long time. And if they need to have it spent by a certain amount of time, we may not be able to make that.
Yeah.
But I will
But
check.
I think those numbers will help us know that, and then if we don't think it's a smart place to put that money, well, there's lots of other places.
All right, sounds good.
Good, thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that's, I guess there was no action on that anyway, right? All right.
Are we gonna move forward to actually, at some point, take a vote on participating in this?
Yes.
I think we need to have that actionable item, at least
Okay.
to get the
Okay,
ball
for
rolling.
next week then. Yep. And there's no reason not to.
Doesn't seem to be. That's why I asked the question, what would possibly be the downside? Is there some kind of string attached?
Well, that's
somewhere
just
that
it.
we
A couple
don't
of years
realize?
ago, we were fearing that you sign on to some of these programs and you can't lower taxes, you know, but that's since gone by the wayside.
Or read the fine print. Discussion with possible action regarding the opioid resolution. So.
This is, we don't need to do anything with this.
We've already done the action and
Okay.
current are.
Yep. Okay. Consider for approval county claims.
This is payroll.
I was thinking there was one that I looked at and had a question about. That's not the claims for that, that's for the claims for this afternoon.
Oh,
I had a question on the claims.
mental health.
Yeah, CC and other things. You can get used to that. I always want to call people over.
Only time acronyms are helpful is when it's in the, like, a page of written stuff. Otherwise, I like people to say it out loud.
You know, they give their acronyms when they send it to you, but then they should have underneath it what it is,
What
so
it
you make
is.
sure you know what you're reading.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get confused, they all seem so similar.
I know.
What are the applications for the public health opening that come through you or through? public
Julie,
health?
yep.
did you guys get? 10th?
Maybe. Send it recorded. I think it was that much.
I know, I was seeing that too.
I think we were at the gap. West and east of us both got moved. I'll make a motion to approve the county claims.
I'll second it.
A motion by Derby and seconded by Jensvold to approve the county claims. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed. Consider for approval payroll claims.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll claims.
I'll second it.
A motion by Jensvold and seconded by Derby to approve the payroll claims. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Who made the motion on the payroll? Bill?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That was a long time ago.
I know, it's rough.
If we have nothing else, we'll be adjourned. I think,